Well, hello, Caroline. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you and hear about your crazy journey this past year because you've blown up on YouTube recently. And before we jump into all that, why don't you share with our listeners and viewers a little bit about you, the Cliff Notes version, and what inspired you to get onto YouTube and when that was exactly?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, my name is Caroline. I'm based out of DC currently. I grew up in this area. I was in like New York for almost a decade or so, and I was an actor there. That was my first career. It didn't pan out, as it turns out. It didn't go that well. I then left, yeah, after like 8 years, and I got into tech. I was doing software development. I had like no intention of doing anything performance related at all. I couldn't even like handle watching television, watching movies. Like watching acting was just so painful to me. I really couldn't handle it. And I started watching a lot of YouTube because it was like reality. I could watch documentaries, I could watch YouTube. That's kind of all I could handle. And that's how I first started watching YouTube. I didn't grow up watching it. It was just like the only thing I could tolerate. And then COVID hit, and I was in a situation in my life where I was just super isolated, and I'd moved to a new place. I was living in Ohio and probably not in a great relationship and just feeling so isolated. And I was kind of nesting in this house we had and watching DIY tutorials on YouTube. And eventually I was just like, dang, I feel like I could do this. I think maybe I could do it. I don't know. And then also kind of felt like, well, if I can't do it, who even cares? Like, whatever. There's nothing to lose. Like, what do
Yeah.
I have? And that was the mindset of me getting into YouTube, was like, dang, there's nothing else going on. I think I could do it. And if I'm wrong, who even cares? I've already failed at so many things.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I made my first video just about like 2 years ago was when I first started on YouTube. And it's become like one of the most fulfilling things in my life. And I kind of just stumbled across it. Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of magical to me. I feel it's like the place where I feel like I make sense for the first time. It's been nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what at the time you started YouTube, did you anticipate it becoming a career for you, or what were you doing at the same time while uploading YouTube?
At the same time, I was still working in tech. I was doing like computer programming, working front end developer, JavaScript, and all of that. And that was my full time job. And then I also started doing like interior design projects for people, kind of just freelance, random things. I worked with an interior designer. I don't know. I had a lot of time on my hands, so I was just taking on a lot of different jobs. And I'm trying to remember how I felt with my very first couple videos. I don't think I was thinking of it being a career. Not that I'm not incredibly grandiose, because I am, but I think when you're doing that, I was just like, I hope this isn't the most embarrassing thing I ever do. Like that's the hope. Is just like I'm gonna post this, because when you start out, you're not a YouTuber. That's what people later maybe think it's cool or fun, but when you make your first videos, you're just like someone's friend who made a video and put it on you, and it's mortifying. Like I think all I wanted was like, this is probably going to be really embarrassing, and I hope I don't totally regret it. That was the hope. But pretty quickly, my friends or family, whoever did watch it, the very few people who did watch it, were very nice about it, at least to my face, and I enjoyed it so much, and it felt so creative that I think pretty quickly I did hope it could become a bigger thing, but I definitely would never say that. Like, I don't think I articulated wanting it to be a full-time job until it already was. It just felt like, I don't know. I definitely felt it early on, but I would never have said that to anyone. Kind of, you don't want to jinx it. You don't want to curse it. It's embarrassing to say. Like, I don't know. I had a lot of feelings about it where I didn't want to curse myself, especially after very publicly trying for something that I felt like I failed at. Yeah.
What was that?
Acting, really. Like, that was my whole identity. I was very serious about it since I was like 12. I was the actor. Everyone knew I was acting. I went to like a really intense school for acting. I was, that was the thing I was doing. And when that ended, it was like career ending, but it was also like my entire personal identity. It was like my kind of public identity. It's what people knew me for. It just felt very, very publicly shameful. You know, everyone was very nice to me, but it felt like something I had to process privately and publicly. Not that anyone cares, like everyone's living their life, but I just was very aware that people knew this is what I had wanted, and then I couldn't make it happen. So I think after that, I kept a lot of my aspirations very private because that had felt so painful. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And how did you decide then or to talk about, because right now you do a lot of
Mm-hmm.
vlogging, you do a lot of interior design on your channel. What did you decide at the time when you first started to even talk about? Because it sounds like you have a lot of different experiences, acting,
Mm-hmm.
computer science, you mentioned interior design. How did you decide on what you were going to focus on for your channel?
I didn't even think about it at first. I just wanted to make the thing I was watching all the time, which was DIY projects, like room makeovers. That was really all that occurred to me to make. And I eventually, I think I naturally like started to make them funny, or at least like funny to me, but I was very aware. I want to say for like the first 10 videos, which was, you know, that was maybe like the first year I was doing it because I could only make like one a month. These projects were so big. I was very aware of trying to keep myself out of it too much. Like, people are here for the design content. I don't want to be too self-indulgent. It's not about me. I can say a little joke, but okay, we need to get back to the design content. And I really tried to focus it on design, even though I did want to bring more of my personality into it. I just felt like I couldn't, or people wouldn't like it. And then that didn't really change until I had my first video maybe after like a year that got a much wider viewership. It was this video about apartment hunting in DC. I'd like left Ohio, I moved back to DC, and I knew people made videos about my apartment hunting, and it didn't feel connected to my channel, but I thought maybe I would try it. And I really had this fear that like nobody would watch it. This is a little off brand, it's not in the niche, whatever. And then it ended up being like my first video that did like much better than anything else I was making. And that video, just by its nature of like me looking at apartments and talking about it and talking about my life, was much more vlog style. And then people liked that. And then they requested vlogs. They're like, you should do vlogs. And when they said that, it was this funny moment of kind of like permission, where I knew I wanted to bring more of myself into it, but I felt like I couldn't. I felt like they wouldn't accept it, or that's not what they wanted, which does happen. Like, that happens in YouTube. You produce one thing and that's all people want from you. And then there was like this accidental moment where people kind of gave me permission, and then I started doing a balance of the vlog content and the interior design, and I'm like pretty happy with that balance now.
So, how many subscribers at that point were you at prior to doing the apartment hunting video? And then once that took
Mm-hmm.
off, what did that look like for you?
Yeah, I think when that took off, that was like January maybe of this year of 2022. I had 3,000 subscribers,
Oh,
and that was
wow.
like it felt
Yeah.
really big to me.
Yeah.
Like, I still remember the feeling of, I don't know if you relate to this, but like when I first started YouTube, when I hit 50 subscribers, just 50s, not 50K, like 50, I was like, oh my God, if I can get 50, I can get any number, because that's how impossible 50 subscribe, like 50 strangers off the street want to listen. It felt impossible. And I remember that feeling so specifically when I hit 50. I was like, oh, well, this was ridiculous. So then anything can happen. I don't even know. Um, and 3,000 felt like I was like, that's impressive.
You're like, I'm a YouTuber now.
Yeah, like, this, you're impressed. And then when that video started taking off, I think it landed like after its peak, it landed me at maybe like 24,000, and that to me like changed, not like it changed my life, but it was just immediately a completely different experience. The comment experience is so different. The way people in my life like looked at YouTube was a little different. It felt a little more legitimized. I was very private about YouTube. I didn't really like to talk to people about it. I still kind of don't usually talk to people about it in my life, but that video felt like it felt legitimizing. It felt like my credibility for the first time. I kind of relaxed a little more. Um, and I was at that point through that video, like different brand managers reached out to me, who I specify brand managers because they're companies who like just handle contracts or deals with brands, not a content manager. And I currently work with one brand management company, and they help negotiate my deals with brands or the contracts or scheduling, that kind of thing. But they don't inform anything about my channel. Like if I don't want to do something, I don't do it. I tell them what video I'm making, and so I feel like I always just want to clarify that. But that's how I got in touch with people who actually made like the finances of YouTube began to be possible at that point.
Yeah, with brand deals. So they connected with your
Yes,
brands
exactly.
that you were able to have sponsored content. And how many subscribers were you at that point? You said about 25,000?
About 24,000, yeah, which was still really very small for any. I still don't really understand why the companies or management companies were reaching out, but I guess I still kind of don't. I think they were just being hopeful, but that was like still pretty small for them to be. I remember I was like so much smaller than anyone else they had on their roster at the time. I think they were. I kind of like asked them about it, and my understanding was that they were excited about like the engagement. That was something I'd never thought about. The engagement rates, I think, were very high, even though I was still very small. I don't know. Maybe they just watched the video, but that's kind of when that started. Yeah.
And then how did you then approach your YouTube channel after that big milestone for you?
I definitely felt like I had to kind of catch the wave. I definitely felt like a bit, because before that, as I had said, I started out making videos a little over a year before that video went big. And I made one video every 4 weeks, every 5 weeks, maybe. I think I had like 8 or 10 videos total at the time.
Okay.
Truly, that was like, for the projects I was doing, that was the very fastest that I could pump them out. I had a full-time job. They were huge projects. They would take 30 hours just to design them, let alone all the editing. It was literally as fast as I could do it, and I was still like burnt out after each one. So when that video was bigger, I was like, I did feel the pressure to kind of run with it, and I wanted to make videos more frequently. I think I put out my first vlog, straight up vlog, after that, and I tried to do the weekly videos. I will also say, when I first started out, I did like a video a month, and then I took like an 8-month break or something. I went through a breakup. I took like literally a 6 or 8 month break and didn't put out a single thing. And then I think maybe my second or third video back was that apartment one. So I always like to say that because there's so much pressure around consistency, and you can never take time off. And I think it depends on, what you're putting out, but I just feel like there was no alternative for me not to take a sanity break for what I was going through in my life. I'm so glad I did not force myself through that. And it wasn't totally impossible when I came back. So I feel like that's one myth I hear all the time, and I think sometimes it's kind of like toxic for YouTubers or content creators. So I don't know. Was
that prior to going viral? The break?
Yes.
So
yes.
would you at this point where you're at now, would you feel comfortable taking a break like that?
I'd feel so nervous. It feels so. I freak out even to take a week off, which I don't usually do. And I've been trying to figure out how, like, with an entry-level job, you get like 2 weeks off a year, maybe. That doesn't happen with YouTube. People are terrified to do it. And you hear about it. It's like most people, of course, are understanding and get it, but you get comments, like, I'm sure that is just like, where have you been? I'm so worried about you. You owe us this. You have to give us an update on this. And on one hand, it's like easy to dismiss, but on the other hand, it does make you think like, well, I must be losing this thing that I've worked so hard for. I'm losing my job. Like, every day I don't post, I must be losing my job. So it does feel like pressure. It's something I'm still trying to kind of work out. Yeah. I don't know. I do think there is a way to do it. I feel like there has to be a way to announce I'm a person and I just need a small break so that you can be creative.
Yeah.
Creativity, like it doesn't come nonstop every week. Like you have to take a break sometimes. So I guess I'm being a hypocrite, but
No, it's
it feels
tough.
difficult
It's a
now.
machine. It's like, in some ways it's like, I think in some circumstances you can take a break, but when it really becomes your career, and we haven't
Yeah.
talked about like, if and when you quit your full-time job, I'm assuming you have,
Mhm.
I think it takes, the whole thing takes on a different meaning, creating content. Before it's kind of like, okay, this is fun, I'll just do it, at my leisure, and, I really want to make this work, but it's not
Yeah.
your end all be all. But when you're doing this as your job, it's like you mentioned, it's your job. So
It's your job.
it's different.
There, you've traded all that security. You're a freelancer or whatever, and you also, I think for me, the thing. Well, first of all, like some of the most successful YouTube careers, the lifespan's like 3 to 6 years. Like people quit, or they're not relevant, or like it doesn't. It's not a lifelong career usually. Like maybe it leads to other opportunities, but there is definitely this feeling that like nothing lasts forever, which I've always kind of felt aware of. And then I think, like in my experience, things felt like they came on very quickly. And the flip side of that feels, to me, it just always feels like it could go away very quickly. It just always feels so fragile. The whole thing feels so fragile. Even like the feeling of viewers who really love you, even that love, to me, like when it feels, love or whatever it is, fandom, whatever it is, it feels like when it comes on so quickly and so extremely, it feels like it can just flip as easily. So
Like you
I
don't
just,
trust it as much. It's almost like a relationship, where you're with,
right.
you're with a guy or something, and they're like, "I'll fall in love with you right away," and it's like, fall in and out of love that quickly.
Yes. If things change that quickly, you're just aware that like it just feels fragile. Totally. Yeah. Then okay, then it could go away that quickly. So I feel like all at once, everyone is always telling me advice to just capitalize on everything. And I definitely don't do that. Like, I'm barely on Instagram. You will not see me on TikTok. I will not be uploading twice a week because all of those things would expire my sanity. I basically can't handle it. I already sometimes feel so overwhelmed by YouTube. So I'm just not capable of doing more. This is what I'm capable of doing. Like, this is my max, to be a sane person who still feels creative and can put out videos I feel really proud of. But at the same time, everyone tells you to capitalize because it's not going to last forever. So this is something that I'm thinking about all the time. I don't have the answer, but I don't think the answer is maxing out because of the burnout thing that like you see everyone go through.
So it sounds as if you're doing one video a week now. And at what point
Yeah.
were you consistent with that one video a week? And then the other question is, at what point did you make this your quote unquote career? Because it sounded like you had that
Right.
stable job. What happened to make that final decision for you?
Yeah. I think, well, after the like apartment hunting video that was bigger, I started trying to do every week. That wasn't, I was pretty close to that while I was still working my tech job, still working my interior design job. Um, there were some weeks I just totally crumbled and couldn't do it. But by I actually haven't even talked about this on my channel, but I did quit my tech job just about like a month ago. I'd had another video over the summer. I actually decided to quit my day job before I had my other viral video, and then I had like a actual viral video kind of just by coincidence, right around where I quit. Um, but yeah, the decision that decision to quit was tough. I mean, for the security reasons, and I think also it kind of was just like an ego trip to me that like after years of being a waitress, a babysitter, a failed actor, whatever, there was a part that felt good about just like having a real job and like I know how to code and all these things that felt legitimizing and I wasn't embarrassed to say what I did. And I think the thing that was hardest for me was like losing that ego trip of, yeah, I do this thing that, you know what, I wasn't even very good at it. There was nothing for me to feel proud of about it. But like I was really clinging to it as for some reason as part of my identity. That was the hardest thing for me to let go of. And then eventually I was just like, I was miserable doing it every day. And I worked for a great company. I'm still friends with the people I worked with there, but I was so damn miserable. I was truly miserable doing it. And I probably did it like 2 or 3 years longer than I should have. Emotionally, like, was present for. But eventually it was just like, I don't know, YouTube may not work out, but I'll just try the thing that's scary, basically.
Yeah, and sometimes the thing that's scary is actually the thing that makes the most sense, because when you're in a position that you were in, that you said you were so miserable, even though people like to label it as quote unquote safe, in a lot of ways it's actually almost risky, because if you're doing something you're not truly, because when I see you in your channel and your videos, you seem very natural, and this seems like something you're very, very good at. And, but by thinking that you're doing the stable thing, but something you're not necessarily, like you said, not good at,
Right.
and don't love, that can be very risky, because a few years down the line, you could turn around and be like, what am I doing? And literally
Yeah.
have to start over. Whereas with this, you're really embracing who you are. It almost seems as if that years of acting, I'm sure, being in front of a camera plays into it. It's like all the things that happen in your life, cumulative, really help you become this person in front of the camera, doing design. And like you said, whether or not YouTube ends up being, a 2-year thing, a 5-year thing, a 10-year thing, it'll probably more than likely lend you to other opportunities that would be more fitting than if you were to sit in that 9 to 5 and do coding and do something that you're not good at and don't love.
You are very articulate. Yes, yes, that's exactly it. Yeah, yeah. I eventually just felt like it was stupid of me to keep investing in a thing that I knew wasn't going to grow. Like, best case scenario, I was going to coast in tech, and
Or
yeah. In the meantime,
sleepwalk.
just
A lot of people go through life
yes. Oh
sleepwalking,
my
right?
gosh. Yes, like my body was going through some motions, and then that kind of deteriorated me. Like, it deteriorated my soul a little bit, because I respected the people I worked for. I didn't want to feel like a bad employee, and the less I cared, oh my gosh, like the worse and worse I felt. It got like super super negative. It just in my own head. And you're right. It's not like when you're doing something that feels like such a poor fit for so long, so many hours of your day or of your week, it's not like that goes nowhere. It's not like that affects nothing. It affects my friendships. It affects my relationships. It affects what I do on YouTube. Like, I think people could tell when I was more down or more stressed, and it affects things. It's not like it goes nowhere. It affects your life. It's years of your life. So I completely agree with what you said. Yeah. Yeah.
Has your mental state changed in a way? Because I know now it's like you're embracing who you are, what you enjoy doing, but then you have this other set of challenges as well, like almost like this idea of like, I have to keep going. This is an opportunity, but I need to take some space for me mentally. So
Yeah.
how did your mindset shift from being in a job you hated, now being in a job you love, but now other challenges?
Yeah, there's always something new to focus on and to sweat over, right? It doesn't stop. You're just switching challenges. Yeah, I think the challenges now are, well, I've been continuing my interior design work, just with clients like outside of YouTube, mostly as like insurance for myself, because I knew the stress of putting all the pressure on one thing, especially all the pressure on like a creative thing or a performative thing. Like, even if it goes well, the stress of that it's a lot of pressure. So I kind of wanted to like diversify, even just for my own sanity, what I was investing in. So say YouTube dies, I've built up this interior design clientele or a skill or whatever it is. And I don't know how far I will take that, but I'm also starting like another project that's separate from both, which I won't talk about at the moment. But like, it was important to me to have a bunch of different projects, assuming that one or all of them are going to die. So that was like the first thing that felt important after quitting the tech job. And then it's been a lot of balancing. Like, the first thing I wanted to do, I got all these hours back in my week. The first thing I wanted to do was like care for my personal relationships, friendships, and family that I'd definitely been neglecting. And people were pretty understanding that I was like basically not sleeping and working a million jobs and not very present. But the stress of that, like that really freaked me out, that I was going to lose people. So I like immediately tried to invest better in my relationships. I'm still working on that, still trying to do that. And feeling the pressure of the weekly upload. I mean, I still like I love YouTube. It is so fun to me. But I think the thing that's been the YouTube related thing that I've been trying to figure out and still trying to figure out is the balance of the content that people want, because I do a bunch of different types of content on my channel. And then the balance that every YouTuber is thinking about, which is like what people want and what I actually feel excited about. And hopefully there's overlap between those two. But I do think it's important to sometimes be like, I know you would like me to do this thing, but I'm just not going to do it. Or I think you're going to really like this thing that you've never thought about, and I just have a feeling that it's going to work. But of course, like not negating your audience too much. It's a weird balance that I feel like sometimes I mess it up. Sometimes I feel like I make a good call, but I feel like the constant tug and pull for me is like not wanting to feel like you're not taking orders. Like you're supposed to be the one who decides what the show is. But does that make sense? Am I saying anything?
Yeah, no, definitely makes sense.
It's a weird balance though. And I feel like there are times where I see creators become like very almost like slaves to their audience and being like, well, you tell me, I don't want to do something you don't want to do. And I think that's how I approached like my acting career. I was just like so desperate to be given a chance that I would do whatever you told me. And I just don't feel that way anymore. I feel a lot more like I want to make stuff that's of value to people. I don't want it to just be a self-indulgent whatever all the time. I want it to be of value to people, but I also want to lean into like what is energizing to me. And hopefully I think that usually feels like exciting to other people.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. So we're nearing the second part of the interview where I go through and ask you rapid fire questions. These are the questions I ask everyone that's come on the show.
Okay, cool.
You ready, Caroline? Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. You maybe had already touched on this one, but what would you say is your number one struggle with YouTube?
Ooh, number one struggle? Can I tie? Can I have two that tie for first?
You could have two that tie first.
I would say, yeah, the like needing creative recharge. I still feel very creative and like creatively fulfilled with everything I put out, but I feel like I'm always like right at the edge of being like a little burnout. So I know that's something I need to address coming up because that can't go on infinitely. Yeah, just always being like, oh my God, do I have creative energy this week? Okay, I do. Phew. Okay, one more week down. And then the other is just the balance, especially once I started vlogging, of like, what is me and what is YouTube? Like, there's so much personal identity that comes into it. So much of feeling, I think I'm extremely honest on my channel, but just the feeling of people saying that like they love you or they're obsessed with you, like that makes me feel like a fraud because my family and friends, they're not like, we're obsessed with you. Like they like me and they hate me the same as, everyone does. So for all of a sudden a bunch of people to be like, we're obsessed with you. I'm like, oh, well, you can't know me then because I suck half the time at least.
Yeah.
So there's like a huge identity crisis in it for me. And that's been a weird thing. Like sometimes I really have meltdowns over it. Sometimes it really makes me feel like, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's been like a big personal identity crisis.
You're definitely not alone in that. What is your highest viewed video on your channel and how much did you make from it, from AdSense?
Highest viewed video is the home organization. It's like you're doing home organization wrong. I'll put this in context. The context is, I'll say usually average video I make like 1,400. So that's the average, and I'll never make this again. But yes, from that viral video, I made 49,000.
From one video.
From one video.
And how many views does that have?
3.4 million.
That's a lot for 3.4 million. But like that's a lot. That's great.
It felt insane to me.
Yeah, and your RPM and CPM must be pretty high.
I think it is. That stuff kind of confuses me, but what I've Googled, I do think it's high. I don't know. I don't know the rhyme or reason, but yeah.
That's amazing.
And that literally happened like the week I quit my job. It could not have been it. I was like getting a surgery that month. I was quitting my job. I mean, it literally was like the randomest, most appreciated timing. And that is, I feel like I have to emphasize that's not typical. It's not what I make from YouTube.
Yeah.
But it was pretty. It was helpful at the time and insane. Yeah.
Yeah. You said because that's right after you quit.
It was literally like the week. I was actually stressed about it because I thought my bosses would see that video and be like, "Oh, you're just quitting because you had a viral video." But like I'd given them, I'd given them notice like 2 months prior, and then everyone else on my team found out like the week that video was out.
That was lucky timing.
It worked out.
Yeah, it worked out great. Yeah. If you were to start over with your channel right now, what, if anything, would you do differently?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know if there's a ton I would do differently. Sometimes I really don't have a ton of regrets because I feel like I did the only thing that I was capable of, whether it was good or interesting or not. That's like all I was capable of. Sometimes I regret how much I say like and how much I curse. It doesn't feel it doesn't feel valuable, but it is what it is. Yeah. I don't know if I would change much. Not to say that it's the greatest thing on earth, but how could I do anything differently? It's what I was capable of, that kind of thing.
Yeah. It brought you to where you're at today.
Yeah.
What is your favorite video you've uploaded onto your channel?
Ooh, I think my favorite is a vlog. It was just a week in my life vlog, and it was one of the first ones where I got very emotional and I've always done a lot of writing and poetry, and I kind of started incorporating pieces like that when they were appropriate and relevant. And it was definitely the most vulnerable video I ever put out, which was, feels like a big leap when you're doing that for the first time. And the way it was received and that people connected with it was like very, it was special to me, and it just felt very true, and it felt rewarding to be able to capture something mundane, but also, I was talking about a breakup in it and just what that felt like. So that was really special to me. Yeah.
What is your number one tip for preserving your mental health as a creator?
I'm taking tips on that. I don't know. I'm open to input.
You're like, you tell me.
Yeah, you tell me that it should be. Number one tip, I think the best tip I've gotten, which I don't always listen to, especially since my viewership has gotten bigger, you can't read all the comments after a certain point. You can't. I will still skim most of them, or I got advice that was like, read every comment for like the first hour or 2 hours that you post a video, because those are people who are like, they get you, they see you, they're excited probably. But once it goes, when I'm getting comments on a video that I posted a year ago, it's like flipping a coin, and if it could ruin my day. And so if it's like a really old video, I think I've talked to a few other creators who feel this way. They're like, you wouldn't believe on something somebody wrote on a video I posted 4 years ago. Those ones feel, I wish I was completely impervious to comments, but it's, I have not grown to that point yet. So I think, it's so basic and pathetic to say, but they still can get in your head. And it's not that like a troll comment isn't what will get in my head, because if someone's just saying something mean about you personally, that's so easy to dismiss. Like, you're a crazy person. You suck. I don't respect any people who would say stuff like that to people. So that's easy to dismiss. Sometimes they're funny. I save them. But when it's a comment where they've just like completely misunderstood or misrepresented something, like an idea that you tried to present, and they've taken it completely a different way, maybe the exact opposite way. And it's just an idea. And then I think that's kind of what all of YouTube actually is. Even if it's a vlog and I'm living my life, what people are really reacting to, they're not reacting to me, they're reacting to an idea.
Or their own reaction to it, or their own, thought about it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think the really old comments, those are the ones. Wait, they feel testy. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever wanted to just give up? What happened there, and how did you get back on track?
Yes. I mean, I literally stopped making videos for 6 months, and I felt anxiety about it because I really cared about what I had built up, like 1,000 followers or whatever I had. But I had nothing in me. I had no capacity. My whole life, I kind of had like burned to the ground and had to restart. And it just didn't even feel like an option to make a video. I didn't think fully about quitting. I don't think I've ever really thought about quitting. No. But yeah, just reaching that point where I felt I don't like to put out a video like half-assed. I really care about the things I make. To me, maybe this is obscene, but it's like expression and art, and I'm sure some people roll their eyes at that, but I can genuinely say that's how I feel about it. Whatever the content is, it's very genuine and very sincere. And so there was no option for me to make a video when I felt completely not present or completely drowning in my life. That just wasn't even an option.
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of just waiting until I could like put my heart into it again.
Yeah. Any video that you created and uploaded that you were really excited about but just bombed?
Totally. Lots of them. Which one was I so excited about? There was one I made. I even talked in a video about how nobody watched this video, but it was about, I think I called it 5 different sources of inspiration. And I just sat down and spoke about, a podcast I loved, a book I loved, some great philosophical thinkers. And to me, it was actually extremely on brand with a bunch of the stuff I talk about in my vlogs and that people are excited about and they have conversations about. And so I thought it would be a very natural continuation, but I don't know if it was the title, I don't know if it was the thumbnail. Nobody watched it, and I was like, I'm putting my soul into that.
Oh my gosh.
No one watched it. Yeah, which is, it's fine. There's a bunch of videos like that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, there has to be when you're uploading once a week.
Yeah.
Not everyone's gonna be a hit. What's the biggest opportunity you got as a result of being a YouTube content creator?
The biggest opportunity, I will interpret that question liberally. I think the biggest opportunity, there's been different kinds of job offers and connections and things, but I don't even know if there's anything I've taken, but the biggest, really like the most impactful one was just, I think, feeling understood on a whole different level. By strangers on the internet, finding this connection or finding a place where my thoughts resonated. But even in my own life, people who were already in my life, people who already knew me, I felt like it became this vehicle for them to get to know me in a different way. It was this like safe, private place where I could totally be myself. And I'm not always like that when I meet people. I'm a human, like most people relate to that. And all these different people who I kind of already knew, I felt like were able to understand me more, and it gave me the confidence to show up in real life to places and speak as myself. And this resonates sometimes with people, so I could just get more comfortable being myself. That's honestly been a huge thing.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
What would you say has kept you going over the last, couple years as a creator?
There's so many parts to it. First of all, there's totally like an ego validation thing. There's totally vanity. Sometimes the comments feel great. That's not a high. Like it can be a high, and then you take the lows with it too. Like that's the thing. If you let it make you feel good, you kind of also have to let it make you feel bad, which is why I think you start to naturally try to be more of a stoic about it because you don't want to be tossed about. There is a high that comes with it. And it's become more and more creative expression for like, what do I really want to capture? I think in some ways I don't know if this is giving myself too much credit, but some of my vlogs have started to feel more like a video essay it's about dating. And it just happens to be a video essay about dating through the example of someone I'm dating, of something in my life. And it uses my life as the example, but it's been a place where like I used to write essays and share them on Facebook or share them on Instagram, or I just didn't have anywhere to put them. And now I feel like they go into my vlogs kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and
you've always been someone that shares or been called to share things like that.
Very open. I feel like anytime I hit, like when I quit acting and I was just overcome with the shame of it. My first reaction was to write out. I think I saw so many people quit the acting world and they would write something about how much better they feel in their new industry and their new job. And I'm so much better off now. And I couldn't write that. All I could write was like, I feel
miserable,
covered in shame.
Yeah.
It's what I wanted. It did not work. I failed. And I felt like I had to say that to people. And I put out, like a long post on Facebook about just the shame. Like I just have to like say what's true. I feel like I have to like get it off my chest. Yeah. I really have always done that. Yeah.
It almost makes a lot of sense than doing what you're doing now. Because some people are very open and some people are very private, and they're like, I don't want to vlog. I want to just do whatever, DIY projects or, your niche, whatever it is, I just want to do tutorials. So it works for you.
I've always been an oversharer. Yes.
Yeah.
That is accurate.
I think a lot of YouTubers are actually.
Yeah.
What is your superpower that you think has led to your success on YouTube?
I think ultimately I wouldn't have known this, but I think I've read this through enough comments, and I do feel it myself, is I think really saying what is true and what's on my mind, whether it's embarrassing, whether it sounds bad, whether it reflects really poorly on me. I think I made like a whole video about, feeling like a bad person. And I don't always feel that way, but that's how I felt that week. And the feedback I get over and over is just people are like, oh, this is how I feel, or this is how I think, or this is what I was thinking about. And there's this weird thing, of course, in social media. Anyone who starts in social media, no one's born really on social media, right? Unless they have a weird parent, I guess. That you're just like a person, and people probably connect with you because you're a regular person, not because you're a social media star. But I think as that increases, people sometimes can take on this persona of being a social media star, and they lose probably some of the humanity that is what people connected with. So I just try really hard to be that and be unpolished kind of, which I think it kind of feels harder and harder the more comments you get and the more people validate you. Like I think it's almost like important for me to stay in touch with my own sense of self-doubt, like all the negative things you have to stay in touch with, because that's part of being a relatable that's like what everybody feels. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so real.
100%. Yeah. That totally makes sense. And last question is, what is your number one piece of advice you would tell somebody who is just starting out on YouTube?
Ooh, don't do it if it doesn't feel fun. Like bail on the whole video if it doesn't feel fun. Bail on the idea. Don't make one that week. There's so many videos I've just completely scrapped because I wrote it down at one point. I thought people would watch it. I thought they'd be into it. And only once or twice have I actually followed through with putting those videos out, and I've watched them bomb, and they don't even sit right with me personally. And I think one of the best lessons, actually, it was from my ex. He was just really big on like, when it the thing you care about, like when it stops being fun, you quit it, you change it. You don't pursue it blindly, which again is, I think, what I did with acting. I pursued it until I hated it. And that it gets you nowhere. Like people can smell if you care about the thing you're doing. Yeah. So if it's not feeling fun, that sounds trite, but I don't even mean it in the way.
No, it's huge. You have to be passionate and love what you're doing on YouTube, because it's you can't hide behind a computer. You can't hide, like with coding. You can't hide behind something.
Yeah.
And kind of sleepwalk through it. Like with YouTube, you've got to be very present on camera.
The sleepwalking thing, that's such an accurate description. Yeah, of the alternative. People can tell. Yeah.
Yeah, they can. Well, Caroline, thank you so much. I really enjoyed chatting with you. It was so much fun, and just learning more about you and, you know, what's going on in your head with this kind of crazy new career for you on YouTube. So for people that are not familiar with you and your channel, where can they find you?
Yes, you can find me on youtube.com. Caroline, I think my name is just Caroline now. I got worried having my last. It was hard to be dating and having my full name up there.
Oh yeah.
I think if you pull up Caroline Winkler, it still comes up anyway. But mostly on YouTube. I'm on Instagram as The Good Sitter. That's pretty much it. That's all the social media I can handle. Yeah. But thank you so much for having me on. It's so fun to talk to you. I love how you think about these things, and it really resonates with me and my experience. It's so nice to talk about.
Oh, good. Well, thank you, Caroline. Thank you so much. And I will put all the links to Caroline's channel and everything in the description so you guys can check her out. Thanks, Caroline.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Right. I hope you enjoyed that interview and you learned a lot from it. Now, if you have a YouTube channel or considering starting a YouTube channel that you're serious about growing and you want the best of the best when it comes to personalized feedback, advice, and up-to-the-minute YouTube strategy, then consider my Zero to Influence YouTube Bootcamp for Women. I have been running this bootcamp since 2018, and we have hundreds upon hundreds of very successful students that have gone through the program. And I can go on and on about the YouTube Bootcamp, but I want you to hear it directly from some of the women themselves.
I feel so lucky that I got to do Erika's bootcamp.
Before I joined the bootcamp,
before joining Erika's bootcamp,
my channel was all over the place. I didn't know what I was talking about. I would hear people say that I need to find my why and my voice and my audience and understand my target audience, but I never felt like I really understood what that meant.
Erika helped me come up with YouTube video ideas. She helped me with consistency. She helps me to interpret my analytics.
I started with 12,000 subscribers and now I have over 50,000 and it is growing rapidly.
My channel has grown almost 100,000 subscribers.
I definitely wouldn't have gotten to this place in such a short amount of time without Erika's bootcamp.
What makes Erika special is that she has been talking to and analyzing YouTube channels for years, and that has given her this bank of knowledge to pull from.
I'm constantly asking her questions about YouTube. I'm asking her advice about my YouTube channel.
Taking the Zero to Influence YouTube Bootcamp was one of the best
decision I could have ever made for myself, for my channel, for my own personal growth as a human being. I could not be happier.
I love that it has reinvigorated me in such a beautiful way. So I am so happy that I've joined.
You're crazy not to hire her. Get on it. All right.